Hey there, did you know that mastering just a few phrases can actually significantly improve your daily conversations?
Oh, that's a really good question, Mark. I bet a lot of people haven't really thought about it that way, just how powerful a few well-placed phrases can be.
Welcome back to English Podcast Time. This is episode 15, and we're really excited to dive into something super practical today.
Yeah, we really are. Today, we're all about, enhancing your daily conversations with some truly essential phrases. It's really key for effective communication, isn't it?
You know, Deb, that's such a good point because I think so many people, myself included at times, we hit a wall when it comes to starting a conversation or even just keeping it going. It's like you want to talk, but then your mind just goes blank.
Oh, absolutely, Mark. I hear that all the time. It's a really common struggle. People often tell me they feel so shy, like, what if I say something wrong? Or what if I sound silly? Or even worse, they just don't know what to say at all. It's almost like they freeze up,
Exactly. The fear of making a mistake, that's a huge one. Or just the awkward silence that follows after you've said, "Hi, how are you?" and then nothing. It's that gap that I think really stresses people out. They don't know how to bridge it.
Yeah, the silence can be deafening, right? And it's not just about starting. Sometimes you're in a conversation and it kind of fizzles out. You're like, okay, we talked about the weather, now what? And then you're scrambling for something, anything, to keep it flowing.
Right, the weather, always the weather. But yeah, it's that feeling of being stuck, isn't it? Like you're trapped in this conversational cul-de-sac. And for a lot of our listeners who are learning English, that pressure is like tenfold. Because not only are they thinking of something to say, but they're also translating it in their head, worrying about grammar, about pronunciation. It's a lot.
Oh, it's so much more challenging when you're not speaking your native language. You're not just thinking about the content, you're thinking about how to say it correctly. And that can really, really knock your confidence down. You might have something really interesting to share, but because you're worried about the English, you hold back.
Totally. And I think that's where having those key phrases, those little linguistic tools in your pocket really, really helps. It's like having a little conversational cheat sheet. Not for cheating, obviously, but for support.
Exactly. It's not about memorizing lines like a script, because that can sound unnatural. But it's about having those go-to phrases, those common expressions that people actually use that just come to mind naturally when you need them. It's like, oh, I know exactly what to say here.
Yeah, it's like a safety net. Knowing that you have a few phrases ready, whether it's to initiate, to ask a follow-up question, or even just to express agreement, it instantly boosts your confidence. You're not just relying on spontaneous, on-the-spot creation, which can be super daunting.
That's the thing. It takes away some of that pressure because when you're confident, you're more relaxed. And when you're more relaxed, you actually speak more fluently, more naturally. So it's this really positive cycle. You learn a few phrases, you feel more confident, you use them, you get positive feedback, and then you want to learn more. It just builds on itself.
It really does. And I think it also helps with active listening because if you're not so worried about what you're going to say next, you can actually pay attention to what the other person is saying. And then, you can pick up on cues to use one of those phrases to keep the conversation flowing naturally.
Oh, absolutely. It's not just about speaking, it's about engaging. And these phrases, they're designed to do just that, to open doors, to bridge gaps, to keep things moving along. It's really, it's quite transformative when you start putting them into practice.
Exactly. And that leads us perfectly into our main segment today, because we've actually put together a list of, 50 essential phrases that can really help you navigate pretty much any daily conversation. And we're going to give you a taste of some of them right now, broken down into categories.
Yeah, because knowing when to use them is just as important as knowing what to say, right? So let's start with the basics: greetings and introductions. Instead of just a simple hello, which is fine, but sometimes you want a bit more. You could try something like, how's it going? Or what's up for more casual settings.
Right, and it invites a bit more of a response than just fine, thanks, For example, if I ran into you, Deb, I might say, "Hey Deb, how's it going today?"
And I'd probably say, "Not bad, Mark. Keeping busy, you know. What about you?" See, it opens it right up. Or if it's someone you haven't seen in a while, a classic one is, "It's good to see you," or "Long time no see." Simple, effective, and always appreciated.
Absolutely. And from greetings, we naturally slide into small talk and getting to know someone. This is where a lot of people feel a bit stuck, right? Because what do you talk about once you said hello?
Oh, tell me about it. This silence can be awkward. But here are some lifesavers. "How was your weekend?" is always a solid choice. It's universal and most people have something to say about their weekend. Or "What do you do?" if it's a new person and you're talking about work. But be careful with that one. Some people don't like to talk about work much.
That's true. A more general one is anything exciting happening lately. That leaves it open for them to share anything, maybe a new hobby, a trip, or even just a funny story. Or if you know a bit about them, how's that project going? Or did you hear about...
Yeah, tailor it if you can. And what about when you want to dive a bit deeper, or you just want to express what you think? That moves us into expressing opinions and agreement or disagreement. This is crucial for real back and forth conversation.
Definitely. For agreeing, you can go beyond just yes. Try, "I totally agree," or "That's so true," or even "You've hit the nail on the head." Those sound really natural and engaged.
And for disagreement, you don't want to be abrupt, right? So phrases like, "I see what you mean, but," or "I'm not so sure about that," or "I respectfully disagree," if you want to be more formal. It softens the disagreement, keeps the conversation friendly. You could say, "In my opinion, I think," which clearly marks it as your viewpoint.
Those are great for keeping the flow respectful. And what about when you just want to, keep the conversation moving or ask for more details? Like if someone says something interesting and you want them to elaborate.
Oh, perfect point. These are some of my favorites for showing you're listening and you want to know more. "Really? That's interesting." Or "Tell me more about that." These are fantastic. They signal engagement. If you didn't quite catch something, don't be afraid to say, "Could you explain that a bit more?" Or "What do you mean by that?" It's much better than nodding along confused.
Absolutely. Clarity is key. And then finally, we have to talk about how to gracefully wrap things up, because just walking away, that's probably not the best approach, right?
Yeah, probably not. So for closing conversations, especially if you need to leave, you can say, "Well, it was great talking to you," and then follow up with something like, "I should get going now," or "I really enjoyed our chat."
Or if you want to leave the door open for future interaction, you could say, "Let's catch up again soon," or "I'll be in touch." And a really common, simple way to end is "Have a good one." It's super versatile and friendly.
Exactly. So these are just a handful, a selection of the 50 phrases we've compiled, but hopefully you can already see how powerful they are. They're not complex, but they're incredibly effective for making your daily interactions smoother and more confident.
For sure. And we'll have a full list of all 50 available for you to review and practice. But the key is, like you said, Deb, it's about knowing when to use them and then just trying them out. Don't be afraid to experiment a little.
You know, Mark, hearing ourselves talk through these, it really highlights how some phrases, even simple ones, they just have a disproportionate impact, don't they? Like, they're not just words, they're conversation catalysts.
Absolutely. It's like out of those 50, there are a few that if you master them, if you really get comfortable with them, they can genuinely transform an interaction. I was just thinking about, how's it going? Or how was your weekend?
Oh yeah? Why those specifically? They seem pretty basic.
They are basic, but that's their superpower, right? They're universally applicable. I remember once I was at a networking event, and I'm usually, me, I can be a bit awkward initially in those settings.
Oh, you? Never.
Hey, all right. But seriously, I saw someone I vaguely knew from a previous event, and instead of just a nod, I walked up and said, "Hey, it's Mark. How's it going today?" And he just immediately launched into this story about how he just closed a really big deal that morning. It opened up a 15-minute conversation all because of that one simple, "How's it going?" It wasn't a closed question. It invited him to share. It just totally changed the vibe from potentially awkward to genuinely engaging.
That's so true. It gives people permission to actually talk about something. And it reminds me of another pair that I think are absolutely transformative. Tell me more about that, and even just, that's interesting.
Yes, those are gold. Why do you think they're so powerful?
Well, for one, they signal active listening. You're not just waiting for your turn to speak, you're genuinely engaged in what the other person is saying. I mean, think about it. How often do people feel truly heard in a conversation? When someone says, "Oh, really? Tell me more about that," it makes you feel valued.
It does. It's like, okay, this person isn't just being polite, they actually care.
Exactly. I had this experience recently where I was just making small talk with a new neighbor about like gardening or something. And I mentioned I was trying to grow tomatoes for the first time. And they just went, "Oh, that's interesting. What kind are you trying?" And it was such a simple follow-up, but it led to us exchanging tips, sharing stories about our gardens, and suddenly we were laughing and connecting over something genuinely shared. It turned a casual, almost obligatory chat into a really warm, friendly exchange. Without that "tell me more," it would have just been, "Oh, that's nice," and then crickets.
Yeah, it takes the pressure off the other person to keep the conversation alive. You're giving them an open door. And what about, "It's good to see you," or "Long time no see," when you unexpectedly bump into someone?
Oh, definitely. Especially long time no see. There's an inherent warmth to it, isn't there? It acknowledges history, even if it's just a little bit.
Right. I ran into an old college friend recently, maybe hadn't seen her in, I don't know, 5-6 years. And we both just kind of froze for a second, like, is that? And I just immediately blurted out, "Oh my gosh, long time no see." And it broke the ice instantly. We ended up grabbing coffee right there and catching up for an hour. It felt so natural, like no time had passed. And that phrase was the key. It acknowledged the gap, but also the warmth of the past connection.
It's amazing how a few words can do that, isn't it? It just sets a completely different tone. You know, these phrases, they're not just about being polite. They're about building bridges, showing genuine interest, and making the other person feel comfortable and engaged.
Exactly. Whether it's the casual opening of "How's it going?", the engaged follow-up of "Tell me more about that," or the warm reconnection of "Long time no see," these aren't just phrases. They're tools for richer, more meaningful human connection. They disarm, they invite, and they sustain.
Yeah, and I think the key takeaway here is that you don't need to be a master orator. You just need to be intentional with a few key phrases, and the rest often follows naturally. They're conversation starters, conversation sustainers, and connection builders.
So as we wrap up, I think what we've really hammered home today, Deb, is that these aren't just random words. These 50 phrases, or even just a handful of them, they're truly powerful tools, aren't they, for like boosting your confidence, making you feel more comfortable in conversations?
Absolutely. I mean, it's not about memorizing a script, but rather, having these phrases ready, kind of in your back pocket. It just makes interactions so much smoother. And it's amazing how much more confident you feel when you know you have something to say or a way to keep the conversation flowing.
Yeah, it takes away that awkward silence or the what next moment. And ultimately, that confidence and that smoother flow, that's what fosters genuine connections, right? It's not just about speaking English, it's about connecting with people.
Exactly. Practice them, use them, and watch how your daily conversations just transform.
Well, that's almost all the time we have for episode 15 of English Podcast Time. But before we sign off, we'd really love to hear from you.
Yeah, please, if you have a favorite phrase from our list today, or maybe one that we didn't mention but you find super useful, just leave us a comment. We'd love to know what works for you.
And if you've had an experience where a simple phrase really helped you out in a conversation, share that too. Your stories really help others, learn and feel more confident.
Absolutely. And hey, if you're looking to dive deeper into communication skills beyond just phrases, we have other episodes, dedicated to things like active listening or storytelling. So definitely check out our other content right here on English Podcast Time.